In the previous lesson, we bootstrapped our project. We included all of the dependencies and set up a folder structure to support our project. In this lesson, we're going to explore the IMAP library available in the standard library. I'm inside the terminal which we'll use to interact with the IMAP library. This library strictly follows the IMAP protocol available online, so the implementation is pretty rigid. It's going to take a little time for you to get used to it, but I'm going to explain you the very basics of how to interact with the library and connect to a server. Before jumping into Pry, I'm going to export a couple of variables on my Unix system. So I'll use the export command and I'll type in courier_user, which will be a special email address that I've built under my own domain. Next, I'm going to export another variable called courier password, so courier_pwd. This is the password that I've set for that email account, which we'll use to connect to our server. Okay, there you go. We're going to use those two variables in order to abstract that information from the script. Now we can use Pry and connect to an IMAP server. In this case specifically, we're going to use my own server, but don't worry, it should be standard in every normal email account. The first thing we need to do is require net/IMAP. This allows us to have the IMAP class from the net module so we can use it. If you check it out, you see that it is available. With that said, let's create a new connection variable which will store the IMAP connection to our server. You type in net imap.new. Then you'll need to pass in a server variable. It's a string, such as imap.gmail.com, for example. My own server string is under env courier_server. This is the variable that I've put in behind the scenes, so you won't have to know what it is. You might have your own server or you might use Gmail, so just provide a string with the correct IMAP address. And there you go, you can see that we get a standard IMAP object. It contains much information that we'll not consider, at least for the time being. It's just too much information to consider. Instead, I'm going to teach you how you can manipulate the connection in order to log in, select a mailbox and select a specific mailbox, search for its messages, and manipulate the data inside each message. That is what we're going to explore in this lesson. So let's get on with it. We get our connection object and we can use the login method and provide the username and password. So you type in the variable. In this case, it is going to be courier_user and then the env courier password. These are names that I provided, but you can pass anything else that you find suitable. You can see the tag response object that we get. We are able to log in, as you can see in the name of the response. It is OK. This is part of the IMAP protocol. It can be either OK, no, or bad. So let's move on with what we need to do. We are able to log in, and now we can go to the connection and type in the select command. This allows us to pick one of the folders available in our email account. There's one default though, and it is called inbox with every letter upcased. So if we press this, we get an OK response as well, and we are able to select the inbox command. There's not much that the response tells us, it just says that we are able to select that mailbox. So now that we are able to select a mailbox, we can search for the messages there. There are many different criteria you can pass into the search command, so connection.search, and they all need to be inside of an array. The protocol requires many different keyword arguments, and they are all inside of an array. In this case, I only want to print out all of the messages. So if I pass an array with just the all command as part of the arguments to the protocol, all we get is a number. Well, this is awkward. Why are we searching for the entire list of messages when we only get one number? Well, what we get here is a sequence number. For each different mailbox, you get a series of messages, and each message gets its own sequence number. It's all part of the storage mechanism inside the IMAP server. We're going to have to find each different email somewhere else. All we get is the sequence number. But don't worry, we're going to do something about it. So in this case, what we need to do is go to the connection, type in the search command again, pass in the all command, which means that we want every single message in that mailbox, and we can loop through each different sequence number. I'm going to pass in an ID, for example. This looks okay. This time we get the chance to actually fetch the contents of the message. There are many different ways you can retrieve different types of content for that message. It's part of the protocol and it might sound a little hard to understand, but we'll try to resume every piece of information that's relevant. One of the components of the message is the envelope. The envelope contains summary information, such as the subject, the recipients to the email, and stuff like that. So what I'll do is go to the connection and type in the fetch command. The fetch command allows us to pass in an ID and then a specific kind of content. In this case, what we want to do is reach out to the envelope. Let's just print out the contents of the envelope. So I'm going to print out the contents of the envelope and finish the loop. You can see that unfortunately we don't get the collect method. We are looping through each of the items in this array, which is not right. Let's do this again. I'm going to pass in a couple of parentheses here to wrap everything, and then we're going to reach out to the envelope. I'm going to print the contents of that envelope and finish the loop. There you go. If we pay close attention, we will get at least one message. I've prepared the email account to have at least one message in the inbox. So let's see what we have here. We get an attribute here, which is actually a structure. It contains a date, a subject, a from variable, which is an array of different addresses. The sender is the same thing, and these are two different aspects of the email message. We get a reply to information, which contains many different addresses as well, the recipients by the to signature. Then we get a list of recipients for carbon copy, blind carbon copy, in reply to, and the respective message ID. The message ID is calculated, but don't worry about that just yet. Now we do know how we can access many different pieces of data for each different message, such as dates, recipients, carbon copy addresses, and much more. We can also do something a little different. Let's reach out to the same connection. Let me just clear the screen up. And I'm going to fetch the envelope, but I'm also going to fetch different information, such as the unique ID of that message. You go to connection.fetch, pass in the ID, and then a different field in here, such as UID. This will retrieve the UID for the message. The same way we get the unique ID, we can retrieve the flags as well. So I'll go to connection, call the fetch method, and retrieve the set of flags. Flags are a means of the IMAP server to identify the state of a particular message, such as with priority, or if it has been seen or not, if a message is new. The flags contain that sort of information. So you use the flags keyword and you will get an array of different flags. What's more relevant than anything else is the actual content of the message. And you can retrieve that by using the same method, so connection.fetch, pass in the ID, and then body bracket text. Let's close it in, and there you go. Let's try and print every single piece of information. So I'll put the envelope, the UID, the set of flags, and the body. So puts body. Let's close the entire loop and you will see a bunch of different information. Don't be scared. There you go. Now we get the very same structure as we had before. This is the envelope. Then this is the unique ID of that message in the entire email account. Then we get a set of different flags, and we also get the body here. This is the entire message. It's a little short, so you could take a look without straining your eyes. You can see that the flags contain the seen method. And this is because we used the select command previously. There's a difference between typing in the select command or the connection.examine method. The examine method takes the mailbox you pass in and sets it to read-only mode. Before we got into this operation, I made sure that the message that was in the inbox was unseen, and that's why you got the flags array to be empty. But once we reach out to the body, then you get a new set of flags. And you get this seen variable, which allows us to say that the message was viewed already. These are the main methods that we'll deal with in the entire course. It is a common procedure just to read the entire contents of a mailbox. You loop through each of the messages, and you fetch the entire set of information required. For now, this is all we're going to deal with. Let's move on with the next lesson where we'll put this into practice. The IMAP protocol is really big, and it's really complicated too. This is the way I found for you to understand the basic concepts of retrieving content from this library. Ruby already does a great job at parsing the entire information that comes in a raw format, so we get a lot of work done already. I'll see you soon in the next lesson, where we'll start designing our system, our models, and our behaviors.